Our students, vacation's over. Let's get back to drawing. So today's lesson is going to be on drawing special effects and powers, something a few people have been asking me to show them. So we got it going on today. So let's get to the drawing table and I'll show you what I know. All right, welcome back. Let's go. All right, welcome back to class. This is teaching now. The 30 days are over. So today's video is going to be on powers and special effects. A number of people have been asking me for that, so I'm putting this together for them and you. All right, the first thing we need to do is get my glasses. My glasses. All right, now one important thing that's going to be kind of underlined through the whole thing is that the way it looks when you drop water or something into water. Whenever you drop something into water, that little splash goes, like that. If you drop, something hits the water, it goes like that. And that's kind of going to be kind of a major theme through this whole thing. Let me see. I can just do this in pen with all this black around. I took my border away so that the camera will stay focused. So basically you have that, and you have water from, every side, just in that big circle of how water splashes. So just remember this as we go along. All right, so the one thing about powers that you have to think about is the speed of the power. So let's start out with something. Let's start out with water. Let's say if your person has like a water power. Now you have, let's just say, a water hose. Here's your water hose right here. And your water hose is going to be shooting out water. Like that. That's your water hose. Now, that's not going to be coming out of this hose really quick. Let me see if I can do this with a pen. I'm so used to doing the pencil thing. I can't do the pen anymore, or I'm not used to doing the pen anymore. So that's your water hose. It's coming out fairly slow. Let's say if you have like some type of water cannon or a powerful hose, like those hoses on those boats that go out and put ship fires out. Let's just do this. Let's just say it's like this. It's just a big, kind of gun water hose. Now that's going to come out like this. Now I shouldn't have done it right on that thing. All right, so let's say you have a water jet cutter. Those things that cut through metal, use water instead of using lasers or whatever. They have water jet cutters. They usually cut out like rims for cars and certain things. It's just quicker to, I guess it may be cheaper to just have that water jet cutter than to try to weld stuff out. So let me use my ruler on this. That water jet cutter is going to shoot that water out, kind of like that. So that water is going to hit whatever it hits. It's going to cut right through it, actually, because that's just the way. That's how powerful it is. It's just like a laser, but using water. Now, the three things that these things have in common are the speed of it. Now, anything you take, whether it's water, fire, electricity's fast already. It's going to be different. The faster it goes, the more different it's going to be. So that's something that you have to think about. So let's say you see how these water drops are like going forward, coming out, and then some of them are breaking up. This water is coming out, and some's breaking up, and you get water drops that come out because it's really slow. It's going slow, and it's breaking up, and some of that water is coming out. Now, once you have something a little faster, that water is not going to go behind in front. The water is going to kind of like fall behind, because this is going so fast. If anything breaks up, it's going to break up and then go back. It's not going to go in front of it like that, because this is going too fast. And this, like this, there's no chance you see any kind of water. And usually, or should I say, any water droplets or anything that's going to come out of that. And usually when water, or should I say, when anything goes really fast, it starts to spin. I mean, you won't see it in your drawing, or people won't show it in the drawing. But if you look at something, water will start to spin. And I believe fire, even a bullet, when a bullet comes out of the gun barrel, it starts to spin as it goes. So speed is an important thing. You have to think about that whenever you have your effect, whether it's coming from this guy's hand or it's coming from something else. Whether it get a thumb in here or something else, whether it's water, electricity, lightning, speed plays a big part in that. The faster it goes, the faster it is, the faster it comes out, the straighter it's going to go, or it has to go. And you won't have that parts of it like breaking off. So that's something you think about. Okay, everything has a texture. Wood, plastic, metal, everything has a texture. Something else you have to remember when drawing. So learn that texture, because when something falls apart or it melts or it breaks, you have to use that texture, shall we say. Everything breaks apart, differently. Like if this thing was metal and you burnt through it, it would probably be like, some of it would like drip down like this because it's hot, and then it would run down this side, depending on, if that was like a laser beam and it went through it. If it was a bullet, then you could see, just like this, you would see parts of it splashing through the hot metal, coming through that. And that's the same thing I said about this. Whenever something hits something, it's going to take that explosion form. It's just going to go out like that. So let's say, well, this is metal. Let's just say that was wood. Something went through that wood. It's a big old plank. And as I say, everything has a texture to it, so you have to learn the texture, and everything falls apart differently. So if you put a hole through this wood would probably splinter, whereas the metal here melted and started to drip down. This would probably splinter. And then you see the insides of that wood. And the way it would come apart is the same way, kind of like small splinter pieces. Whereas water would take that round, if it's the water itself. But it's always going to go out in that direction. Just like I said, that water is going to splash. Anytime you take something, you drop a stone in the sand, the sand is going to, same way. It's always going to take that same thing. If something hits anything, glass, whatever, it's going to shatter. You're going to have that outside shatter. Well, that depends on the thing. I mean, if it goes clean through, you won't see anything on the outside. But if you're drawing, if we're doing comics, it looks good when something goes through something, and then you have the reaction on the front and a reaction from the back. And the greater the back reaction, the more powerful we know that thing is. Because usually if you take a gun and you shoot something, slab of meat or something like that, it'll put a nice little small hole in the front, but it'll make a bigger hole in the back. So let's just do like this. Let's say this is a book. You shoot that hole that goes through the front and paper, and it'll have a bigger hole in the back. I guess because it's pushing all this material through it and pushing right out the back. So you're going to have that bigger hole right here. So if this was a book and it was open, this is the cover, you know, whatever, Trials of the Samurai Clown book. And then you shot this, it was a small hole followed by a big hole coming out that end. So back to the thing. As I say, everything has a texture. You just have to study what it looks like. All right, let's talk about water a little bit more. Now, water is basically round. Water is basically, you have water drops, which are basically round because water clings to itself and it's, you know, it's a liquid thing. But this is kind of hard to explain on the fly, but let's just say you spill water somewhere on the ground. It's always going to have that roundness, and if it runs off the table or runs off wherever, it's going to have that round drip to it. Let's just say this is the end of your table. Right there. So if water hits something, it's going to, because there's always different. You can have water crashing into a rock. You can have water just going into a windshield, different things. But the water is always going to flow. If it's just not breaking through it, it's going to hit and it's going to go back up, and there's always going to be a roundness to that. So if this is water, there's going to be that roundness to it, and then it's always going to break apart in these small drops. Remember, it's got to go like in that outward explosion direction. So if this was something and that water was hitting it and eventually it broke through it, depending on what the material is, you would have part of the material break through and the water comes right through there. You can have a little bit of tenseness where it just came through, and the rest would be basically straight, depending on the speed of it. You can have the material shattering, whatever this is, wood, metal, whatever. And as I say, you could probably have some water spray here because as it busts through, you'd have just a little bit of spray. But you won't have anything breaking from this stream of water. But it's always going to be round like that. And just for education's sake, I saw this thing a long time ago. And, you know, when we draw rain, we draw, you know, if it's close up like that, we draw rain. This is a raindrop or a teardrop or whatever. But scientists did a study on it, and they say when rain falls from the sky, it is actually shaped like a hamburger bun. It's shaped like that because I guess the force of the wind hits it. So it goes from, you know, round, and the wind comes and hits it up, and it just basically flattens it into the shape of a hamburger bun. So, you know, that was just interesting for me to see, and a little knowledge to pass on. So just remember, water, if it's crash, if you have this flood of water and it hit up here, it would break. You don't want it pointy because that's fire, and we'll get into that later. So if water crashed up in here, let me switch my blue pen. I don't know if you can see that. You can't see that. So I have a blue marker. 1 second. Let's just say if this was blue, this is a marker, so it's going to be a little heavier. So if you had something like just crash up into that, it's going to have that round edges that distinguish from fire. So water, it's like, let's jump from water to ice now. Ice, if you were shooting ice, if you ever saw a fire extinguisher being discharged, I said I was going to use my pen, didn't I? Yes, I did. If you ever saw a fire extinguisher, however a fire extinguisher looks, a fire extinguisher, you have different types. You have the one that basically kills the air. It kind of like sucks the air out so the fire won't burn. You have one that's just, I think it's just water, and another one, I think it's like 3 types. One's a liquid, one's a gas, and something else. One's for like gasoline. You have that one for gasoline, and then you have one for like wood or something like that. But yeah, there's different types. So a fire extinguisher is going to kind of like give that. It's kind of like a lot of water particles. So it's not going to be straight. It's going to be kind of, yeah, it's like if you spit a lot of water out. You've seen people, you know, on comedy movies where they, you know, hear a joke and they spit all that water out. Fire extinguisher is going to do something like that. Now that's basically how something would freeze. It's going to freeze the air and the water moisture in whatever to create ice. So with something like this, whatever's in this thing, let's just say whatever this is, whatever's in this, it's going to start to freeze once these little small water particles, air, hit it, it'll start to freeze. Now on the other side of it, as the water freezes as well, let's get this one again, it'll start to cover it. And because the water's going past it, you're going to have these little kind of like icicles coming off of it. And it just keeps on building up until you have more and more and more of this icicle kind of thing. It depends on how much spray you continue to use. That's why on a roof you have, here's your roof, here's your sheetrock, your shingles, and then underneath your roof you have those icicles. Because that water is constantly going down and it's freezing. And that's why if you look at an icicle, it has these layers like that. If you're going to be an artist, if you're going to do this stuff, you need to start looking at stuff more closely, like a scientist would. Just don't go past like a car wreck and say, oh my goodness, there's a car wreck. Look at how it got smashed. Look at the glass, how the glass broke. Look at how the bumper, you know, is torn up. Is it plastic? Is it metal? Look at the tires. If the tire's falling off the rim, look at the inside of it to see how that tire connects in that rim. And you have to start looking at this stuff so that you can draw, so that, one, you become a better artist, and two, you won't have to really worry about reference for every page that you have to do. Every panel you have to do, you have to go find reference. So it's because this water constantly runs and it's freezing, it's going to do that. Then you have your little drop of water that, you know, may come off. So that's going to be the same thing with this, like in a fast motion. This spray of water particles is coming out and is hitting this thing to freeze it. Now again, speed. How fast is this going to go? Like, I think Mr. Freeze's gun used to just have that beam to it. Back in the old Batman, I said I'm going to use this pen again. His gun used to have just the beam. That looks like the Lost in Space gun. Anyway, and then the person would just freeze up instantly. But now, I think they use more of this. There's still that beam in there, but you can see like more of the particles around it. So I mean, his gun, it was like a laser kind of gun, and then the person would just be frozen. He hit the person, and the person would crystallize instantly. Like that. But now, I mean, you can still do that because ultimately this is your comic, it's your drawing, it's your idea, it's your thing. But just remember, this comes out with a hard enough force, just like a water hose. If a water hose hits you, that water is going to go around you, and then you'll still see some water. So this ice thing, ice ray, maybe it's from a gun, maybe it's from the person's hand or his eyes or whatever, it's going to give you more of these little icicles from the back. The front is probably going to be basically shaped, I keep throwing my pin down, kind of shaped the way you are because it's hitting you like that. So you're going to have that more of a roundness like that. And as you go back, then you'll have your sharp part of your ice. Now, ice itself, like if you see like large structures of ice, you have more of your kind of crystal shaped type of ice. And my theory, you might want to go look at Discovery Channel, is that if you have an iceberg or in the not Arctic, the Arctic, of course you got your water and your water freezes, and then you have like these floating masses of ice. My theory is that, and it could be true, once these collide, they start to go on top of each other. And then with all the rain and so forth, it just kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Maybe if the top gets too heavy, it flips over and then it starts again. Because if you look at an iceberg, if this is my water, an iceberg would be kind of like this. But then underwater, you'll have all of this under the water that you can't see. And ice tends to be flat because of the water. And then it hits and it breaks up, and it could just stack on top of each other like so. And the more it stacks, the more it shifts one or two up, kind of like when you're erecting a wall or something. And then with the wind, the rain, it just builds up just like the icicle in reverse. And I figure when it gets too heavy, when enough stacks up and it gets too heavy with all the moving of the ocean, the whole thing flips over and it starts again until you get there. But the bottom is probably so heavy that the top won't flip it over again. It's my theory. Now, that's just my theory. But seeing as ice is flat, I believe that's where you get your crystals, your spires from in nature. So if you would do something like that, just think about Superman's Fortress of Solitude, where they've got all those kind of crystal. I don't think it's going to be sharp like that, though. Sharp crystals like that. It could be. But if you look at like some documents on a cave, an ice cave, and then just see how that stuff is formed, usually from, like I said, wind, rain, water, just pushes through after a while, because if it was all frozen, nothing would move. So I guess you're going to have the cold parts and the warm parts, and the warm parts are going to flow through to maybe make that little cave part, or the rain is continuing to blow through, could, wear it down, smooth it down, and then the sun comes out, kind of smooth it down a little bit more. So that would be more your ice structures. Now, if you're shooting that ray from somebody's hands or eyes, that's kind of like on you. If you want to do a straight one, you can. But to me, if you do just straight like that, that's just more a beam of light. You have to have something like this on the side to show, that it's not just a beam of light. Let's just say, here again, I did water. Let's just say I'll do a beam of light, a light, and then a laser. This is my nozzle. It's always a nozzle. My laser gun nozzle, and this is my water gun nozzle. And as you see, I did remove my background, my board background, so that this can stay focused. Because someone said, have something black so to focus on, and that's why a lot of times I had my eyeglass case or something dark. And it worked a little bit, but I think it was just too much light, in there. So now that this is the only light, it's got to focus on this light. So anyway, here we go. This is my laser. My beam of light. And this is, what did I say, my water. It's going to be like a water jet cutter. So by doing just, maybe a few of the, I don't want to say texture, of a few of the make of whatever it is, then you can tell, okay, that's not a laser. That one would just be a laser, but as the water breaks out of here, the same way as I said, when it hits something and on the back, it kind of just breaks a little bit, or you get a little bit of that water or force. You could do the same thing on a barrel of it. And then, as I said, it won't be like, big drops of water because it's going so fast that it's pulling water. If you look at something, where is that tripping? If you look at, it's here on one of these, oh, here it is, this page. If you look at a puddle of water and you see some of it is running off the edge, water follows itself. It pulls, it's like one mask, and if something starts to pull, it'll pull the rest with it. I mean, it might not get all of it, but everything right here, probably here and over here, is going to start pulling with this because it's not one, it's one, basically just one piece. Now, if you have like a hole over here and some, hole in the water and a puddle over here, it won't affect that. But just try that. Put some water on a sink and then put it on the edge of the sink. This is your edge of your sink. There's your water here. Put your finger right there on that edge and push it down. The water will run on your finger and down off of that sink, and all this water up here will follow it for the majority of the part. It'll follow that water. So water follows itself. So as I say, the stronger this is, you won't see these big drops. You might see a little drop here. And because it's coming out this muzzle, it might be hitting the edge. Maybe you have like a lip or something. But you don't really have to explain that to the reader. But just as long as you have a little bit and the force of it hitting whatever. If the drops will explain that it's a laser or it's a water. And you can put like, because I say when you water, if it spins fast, if it comes out hard enough, it's going to spin around. It's going to go in a circle. So, however, you want to put something inside of it to show that it is water. But I'm sure if you're doing a book or something, you will explain that this is a water cannon or whatever. And then whereas light would just hit and it'll cut through, it'll burn. And so the difference between fire and water is you're going to have a round end, where fire is going to have a sharp end. So let's get into fire. Fire! I'm going to flip this over because I go through paper like crazy. All right, so your typical fire, if you light a match, the fire is going to be kind of like this, like that. It's going to have that point. Fire is always going to have that point to it. Fire and kind of electricity, but we'll get into electricity later. It's going to have that point. So even if you blow that, fire, if you're not blowing it out, it'll like that. It's always going to have that point to it. So if you are doing fire, if you're doing a campfire, depending on how big the fire is, you're going to have a high point somewhere where it's hottest, usually in the middle, because most of your stuff is piled up here in the middle. So you're going to have that high point there. Now, the way I do fire is just kind of like you do a half a moon. Everybody knows how to do a half a moon. So just do a half a moon, another half a moon, and then, you know, the opposite type of half a moon. And you just kind of like wave it around a little bit. So if I'm doing fire, I'll do that. And then I'll do a little smaller point like that. Just kind of like twist it, like that S. But remember, the high point is going to be in the middle. Like that. Just kind of practice that. Just like an S. And another one. Another one. Another one. As long as it has that point and it's moving, because fire is light. So it's going to move in the air the same way when you blow it, it's going to blow back with the wind. Now, what is that? A flamethrower? Flamethrower works because it has the tanks in the back, and the tanks have the liquid. It has like whatever burning, whatever. I want to say gasoline, and then you have your gun. And then basically it has a little lighter here. Some of them have the little fire piece that's always burning. And you pull the trigger and it shoots that liquid. And then because the liquid is flammable and you have the little piece here that's lit or will light, it becomes like basically just a fiery liquid. And it's coming out slow. If you ever look at a flamethrower, a real flamethrower probably go like this far and up in the air, and then that's about it. You'd have to get close to actually operate a flamethrower. Now, if your fire is coming out like medium slow, then your points are going to be forward. And remember again, if it hits something, if it hits this wall, it's going to do that same thing as a water drop. It's going to splash out, and then you can have like some of your fire break off. It's always good to do that. And you know, if you want to do that three-dimensional, you have it coming all the way around through there. And even coming slow, you can have a little bit of fire break off here. And if you choose, you can have something from the middle, like the actual flame or whatever. You would have to just play with that one. You have to kind of like figure out, play with that one. Now, if fire was coming out really fast, just a little faster, then you flip your flames around, because remember, this is light. So if it's coming out slow, the fire is just going to be like that. If it's coming out fast, you flip your flames around. So you can actually say it's coming out faster than the air can. It's moving faster than the air, I guess. So yeah. Just remember that, reverse it. And if it's coming out crazy fast, then it becomes a laser. It's coming out crazy fast. I don't think it would be straight, but you have that edge to it. And then again, when it hits, you'll know, oh, this is fire. You know, I don't know, you put like the fire on the inside of it, you could. That might take away from it. But as long as the end result is the fire, I hope you can understand that, because I'm overlapping like crazy. You'll understand that. Any faster than that, then you get your straight beam, which is just, you know, your laser beam. We're not even going to go into the laser beam. Yeah, we will. Or it could be plasma or whatever. It's got to be straight, no matter where it is or how you aim it. It's got to be straight. That's something that you cannot not get away with by trying to freehand it. And however it hits, if it is a beam, it is going to usually, depending on what it's hitting, it's going to start melting that metal or that glass, or burning that wood. So it depends on what it hits. Now let's just say it was like a force field, just like the water. When you drop something into the water, we showed you, and a splash, you have this little splash that comes up. But you also have these rings from the water rippling. That's the same way you can do if something is strong, not penetrating, you can have those rings that come out, and then the energy. And because it's light, they usually in comics, they just use the straight energy lines to show that it's penetrating or it's not penetrating. Usually they don't do the whole three-dimensional thing by putting one in front. They just stick with the side. So if it's like this, it'd be like, and then you have your whatever coming down and hitting it, and then going down. Versus, and if it comes out, like I said, if it comes out the side, you're going to have whatever material is, some of it's going to break off. You might get just a little bit of that build up from that energy, and then it comes out. So that's that little build up right there, here, and then the energy comes out. And whatever material that is, be it wood or metal or whatever is metal, you're going to have that melted lava or metal, whatever you call melted metal. I can't think of it right now. Comes out. If it's some kind of a hard material, you might want to shatter it. Just like say this is glass. Shatter it. Another thing, look at what does it say about like broken abandoned cars, or how texture of stuff. Look at how glass is made. When glass breaks, how does that look? It just, back in the day we had the car glass. That's a door, car door, just in case. That it would shatter. And that's where most of the deaths were from. People going through the windshield, and it was basic glass. So you would have all this sharpness right here. And these people, their head would go through there, and if it's hard enough, because we didn't have to wear seatbelts back in the day. If you're young enough, you won't know, because back in the day, we did not have to wear seatbelts. You just get in your car and drive. So people get drunk and then have an accident, and somebody would go flying through the windshield of the car. And then, this, number one, they're breaking that glass with your head. And then two, as you went through, let's see if I do a front. Let's say this is your windshield. This is your windshield. Here's your hood of your car. Your head is going to go through here with your shoulder. So that glass broke like this. On you. So yeah, it was not a good feeling and so that's why now I'm not going to get back into of course it's not a great feeling when you go flying through your car windshield. So now when they have glass, this is your door again. The glass kind of, it's like one piece. It's kind of almost like a safety net. Yeah, it still hurts, but it's not shattering like that and having all these sharp pieces. It is almost like a mesh, a net. I don't know how they created it to do that. But it'll stop you from going through that glass. No seatbelts. That was the day. And when they started the seatbelt law, a lot of people were like, man, you can't tell me I have to wear my seatbelt. After years of driving without seatbelts, it was hard for me, especially when they actually turned it into a law. I'm like, you know what? No. But when they start putting that $75, $100, if you don't, you get caught. So basically, to me, that was like Big Brother saying, oh, we're gonna force you to do that, but it's in the name of safety. It's in the name of safety, you know. So next time they can force you to do something else and something else, and then pretty soon they're like, you can't listen to that radio station because, you know, name of safety or whatever reason. You don't want your kids hearing that stuff and growing up being crazy. So yeah, it was just me. So it took me a minute to start putting my seatbelt on. And now if I ride around without it, I just feel weird. So, okay, laser. So we did fire, water, and this is basically light. As I said, the shield, if like you have an invisible shield and something hits, you can either do this or this thing here. Just it's like the energy repercussion. When it hits and kind of like bounces off, it really has no effect. Kind of one of those things. Just make it a little better. Make it round. You don't have to make all of it round. And this is coming at it from a oval perspective, so it's tilted. You know, you just close here, still close here, and go out wider every time, keeping it close on one side. And you have to keep that the actual whole circle thing going, or it's going to look like a mountain. But you don't have to do the whole line all the way across the circle using blue. Maybe the first couple all the way around. The second one, the next one out, you kind of break as it goes out, you break the lines because it's not having so much effect as it did on the inside. Just try that and you'll see what I'm saying. But you have to make it look good because otherwise it's going to, depends on how you look at it, it's going to actually be like a step going down, or it can be a hole going in. So you have to get this side just right. You can't have you have to go out a little bit as you go, but not as much as this. So it'll be like this, that, like that. And that'll kind of flatten out your barrier or whatever you would call that. So it wouldn't look like you're going in a hole. But that's, I mean, if you want to do that, that's a way to go in a hole. And just a little shadow going into the hole. And you would actually make it smaller or less wider as it goes. And it would be going down into a hole. So if you want to do like a whirlpool, be like that. Like that. So, okay, we got fire, water, light. I'll tell you a little bit about glass. Broken glass. You have your window. And depending on where it's shattered at, let's say something came in right here and broke that. Just hit right here, and I'll just do some glass. Glass will usually break with sharp edges like that. So I'm gonna stay connected, like because your frame here is holding that glass in, and you might have some pieces that are out, but usually they'll kind of like stay together to a degree. So all this part would be the missing pieces. I'm looking for my pens. I can color this real quick. So let's just say this. Go buy you a cheap mirror and break it and then see. How glass reacts. It's a neat looking design. So yeah. Yeah, so basically that's how glass breaks, like that. That centerpiece, wherever it hits, and everything else shatters. So if you are from the side, if you threw that rock and it came through that glass, that brick or whatever, that glass is going to do that same thing as I said with the water. It's going to fly in every direction. Or spray out in the direction. And then you can too have this little cracks that go around. I guess that depends on what type of glass it is. It would shatter and then have that little cracks going in there. So let's just say that glass went straight through there. And then it broke there. And usually the speed is going to pull all the glass through, but you might have one or two pieces from the back that kind of like come back through. But as long as you have them in that spray direction, it looks good. And then have some side to the glass. Some of them, you know, you see the front side, the back. Because glass is not flat, glass would be, let's say that. You have this little piece. It just looks good when you have some edges to your glass. However, the shape is, it's not all just like this. You see the edge of it somewhere, somehow. All right, another video getting long. As I say, we did the glass, we did the water, fire, light, smoke. Let's do some smoke real quick. Smoke is just basically just, you know, bubbles on top of each other, but you just can't see all the bubbles. You have like cloud and thick smoke, and then you have like your wispy smoke. So the way I do like smoke or cloud, let's just say cloud, I'll just do like this. This is like just half a bubble. Okay, you have that. And then you go inside and you do some more, because clouds are always kind of thick on top of each other. And you don't want to fill it up. And then if you look at some of the clouds, you have that, they have that flat bottom like that. Simple cloud, just half a bubble, just remember. And all of it's just basic practice. And then you can, you know, darken some of it on the inside, because there's a lot of shadow in clouds. But again, it's practice. It's just practice. Now, smoke, of course, you know, it's lighter than air, so it's going to go with the breeze. So, wrong pen. If I do smoke, first I'm going to get the direction of it, and then, you know, is it thick smoke? Is it like thin smoke? So, well, let me just get the direction. So, like, this is the direction I want the smoke to go in. Then I'll kind of like do the same thing. I won't make it ball so much. I won't give it like so much of the bubble kind of thing. I'll do like that, kind of like that. Almost like if you were drawing lightning, and we'll get into lightning in a minute, and it's the same thing. But it has to go with that in that line. And then sometimes you have some smoke, some more smoke trailing off. And a lot of people would say, oh, I sound like you sound like you're crying. That's because I always have a dry throat. I always keep my water with me. So I'm going to take 2 seconds and take a drink of water. Smoke, and then, you know, that's like your thick, you know, your warehouse is on fire kind of smoke. You can have some up, some down, and then, you know, you want your shadow in there, because if that's thick black smoke, You want a lot of shadow in that. Just throw some shapes in there and then, close it up. It's like drawing a little puzzle piece or something. And then just color it in to make it black. But it's got to be round. It's got to be round kind of shapes like this. And then you have your thick black, my warehouse is on fire kind of smoke. And I say like just wispy smoke, like if you have a guy has a cigarette. And you just trail it off like that. It's just like that. And that's pretty much the same as lightning. Let's get into doing some lightning because, people might have those lightning powers or how I have lightning. Now, I saw the other day, I don't believe I was drawing up and down like that. Oh, well. The other day about lightning, just messing around on YouTube. YouTube is a wonderful thing. Bless you, YouTube. And they say that lightning from the clouds, okay? Here's my storm clouds. Lightning will start. And it said lightning doesn't really know where it's going to hit. Not that it's got a mind of its own. But what happens is it starts from here and it kind of hesitates. This is why you see these little jagged areas like this. Because lightning is looking for that place to hit. And what they say is from the ground, I can't remember 100% of it, but it's like the electricity rises from the ground. So lightning, it comes up from the ground and then it connects. Once that little piece comes, it's kind of like there's a lot of energy and you have small ones here, but it's so fast you can't really see it. And then once that energy builds up and goes to the one point that it's going to hit, then the rest of the lightning hits. That's why they say it comes and it will kind of like go in all these different directions. And then that one will hit because of that energy that comes from the ground. Basically, that's it. It's not like this energy. They have, there's specific words for it. And even this is called something. This little searching pattern is called something. So when you do lightning, you kind of like zigzag just all over, just thinking, like if there was an earthquake and you try to draw a straight line and stuff started shifting like that, you couldn't draw a straight line. Basically, that's lightning. Maybe not so hard this way and that way, but just like that. And then you just follow. And then, some you have that single hard strike. If it's like hard on one single line, it would be more of a more powerful kind of bolt of electricity. But when you have, the extra parts shooting out, to me, it represents, it's not as strong as that one bolt that will come out. So electricity is basically like that jagged line. And then, of course, once you have that strike, it's going to be the same way. It's going to go out into that, what is that pattern? That pattern, dispersal pattern, I guess. So if it's coming from somebody's hands, two, three, four. You can have, it can actually either it comes from the fingertips or it could just come from a little past the fingertips, let's just say. So you have that, and then maybe they can all form up into one heavy lightning bolt. Like that. And just remember, it's not straight. I mean, just like who was it? Not Thanos, but the other guy, his eye beams. Your lightning can go every which way it wants to, as long as it hits the target, which, if you're drawing, it will hit the target. So, God, I can't think of the guy's name. And Thanos just keeps running to my mind. However this guy is, the Superman guy. I'm gonna end up drawing Thanos because that's what's on my. Anyway, he's got the whatever beams, that omni beams that go every which way, but it always hits the target. Same thing with lightning, but just not as much of a curve as that. I mean, it can go here and come back. I mean, it's your lightning, it's your book, it's your beam. What is that? Yeah, it just came to my mind a second ago. This is Thanos with the big eyebrows. The other guy is like, I don't know, whatever. You know who I'm talking about. So, lightning. Kirby Craggles. What are Kirby Craggles? I didn't know it was actually called Kirby Craggles until I saw a little Jim Lee special. Are these the little black energy balls? Like if this was the guy's hand and he's powering up, you have the energy that comes around, because Jack Kirby created that, and they say, and they're usually round, they're not square, they're usually like oval, kind of round. I don't know why I keep drawing ovals or squares. And they say Jack Kirby would spend like hours doing, his little energy craggles. So that's these little, you'll see in the galaxies and stuff, you'll see how they do these things around planets and stuff. And it's, Kirby Craggles. They named it after Jack Kirby. They're usually round because it's not going to be square, because energy is round. And what they'll do is they'll take one and they'll take another one and just add it to that, and maybe another one added to that, and a couple small ones, and then take another big one and they'll add a circle to that and circle to that and a bigger circle over here to that and small over here, and then I put like the circles around that. And they'll just, like, I guess that's why he would practice for hours. They say he would just do these for hours on his drawings because he wanted to get them just right. Thank you, Jack Kirby. You were an inspiration to us all. You and Stan. So yeah, and from that you can do your blast. You got your guy who's got this little power blast. Come on, Brian, finger goes like this. And your thumb is like that. So yeah, from that you can do your power blast. Put the rest of the fingers in there if you want to be all like that with your crackles around it. Let's just say add a little bit more to it. And then, let's see. Because it's like pulling energy into the thing. Energy just pops out of the sky from nowhere. Or it becomes visible, from nowhere. And then fires. But I wouldn't have it in the actual, in the beam, because if it is, it's getting pushed by that beam. So I would just have it kind of like around the person's hand or around the body or whatever. I guess that's the same thing as like Goku's, when he powers up. But he has that water kind of effect. He has this, in the beginning, it's like but going around him and behind him. And then he has that little, like the fire, like this invisible energy fire. Now, if you take and put some craggles on top of that or in that, then you got a powerful being. Along with some ground breaking up. The ground could be flying up in the air. Cracking. Opening up here. More Kirby Craggles. And these you want to kind of keep more inside than outside because it's not blowing away. It's just coming, gathering. And then a little lightning striking down. I should have did that on a blank page. That would have been tight. Then you got your power up. You got your guy powering up really nicely. So what else did I leave out? Because I know this is going to be about an hour video. Yes, this is an hour and 5 already. So this is going to be a long video. If you're still here and you're seeing me and hearing me, you know it's a long video already. So you got your light, which is basically your plasma and energy. You got your fire, your water, textures. Just remember you have your textures on everything. Wood, stone. Look up like some stones. There's so many different rocks out there in the real world. It's just hard to say, okay, this is how you draw a rock. Because even my rocks sometimes are just suck. You know, and you have your wood. Your wood always has a knot hole somewhere. And that's why I start with a knot hole and I work my way around it. You just get bigger. And then there's those just the, I forgot what these call, is the grain of the board. And I might put another little knot hole over here somewhere. And just more straight grain of the board to give it that kind of, that wood look. And remember, like I say, everything comes apart in a different way. So your rock would like shatter into pieces, small pieces if it, you know, as long as you have it going in that outward direction. Wood would splinter. Kind of keep it sharp. You know, water splashes. You're going to have your this, and then fire will kind of like hit and then just kind of like break apart as well. It's just going to be less of water, except it's going to be more pointy than anything else. So I'll take a second to think about all the things that I didn't tell you about and try to remember it. And then that'll be a great thumbnail. I think that's going to be my thumbnail. I'll just do a full picture of that. Fire, water, light. We'll get into light because, yeah, light could be the Kirby Craggles, light like Jubilee back in the day. I don't know how she does it now, but yeah, I think that's gonna be it. If I think of anything else that I missed, I'll do a part 2. Or if you can think of something that I missed, then send me a comment, email. I'm always open for emails. You can email me if you choose. And smoke, fire, water. Smoke, steam is kind of like this, but yeah, without the blackness. And just remember, speed is the key. Speed is the key. If you throw something, and then I'll wrap this up. If you throw a ball like that, a lot of times you have your direction lines, you know, your energy lines. That just, when you curve it like that, that means the ball either come from a long way away or it's coming down from high. If you do your ball like this and it's straight, that shows that your ball is coming fast. But if you do your ball like this, just like that rain drop, you know it's coming even faster. I mean, you can put some, I don't know what you call that. Like if the ball was, if you took a picture of it here, and there, then you know it's going a lot faster. The straighter you go, the faster you get. And it's like the water, anything that goes fast actually changes directions. What did they say? One airplane, what was the airplane? I forgot. I think it was the Blackbird, actually stretched as it was going faster, and then when it slowed down, it kind of back formed itself again. That's why they had to come up with like special metal that can, number one, take the heat and then, you know, not burn up and then flex and then go back. And I think the bottom of the space shuttle does that as well. When it comes in, all that heat, and they have tiles, and those tiles kind of like come apart from expanding and then go back. So yeah, just remember that speed is your number one thing. Your texture of whatever it is, your surface or whatever, and how it would come apart. So those three things, and I think you pretty much got it. So yeah, with little action lines here, a few action lines, you can, you know, show people the powers, the motion of the powers, the strength of the powers, and so forth and so on. So that's going to be it for this long video. As I said, if I missed something that you might have, like just a common power that I just missed, write me and say, hey, you missed this or you missed that. So yeah, and I think the next one, somebody asked me to do armor, so I'm going to try to show how to do an armor. But as always, it's difficult to do one thing where there's a lot of different things. It's just like saying, show me how to draw a cat. There's so many cats out there, different cat, long hair, short hair, you know, Siamese, alley cats. So yeah, I try to do my best. So please, if you have not subscribed, subscribe, hit that notification bell and give me a thumbs up so that YouTube will know that this guy is doing some good stuff, and then, you know, get my views up and the whole 9 yards. All right, tell a friend, and I'll see you guys in the next video.